Jo Pavey's coming online. Thanks, Running for Medals.
Sorry, hi. I'm sorry, I'm pressing all the wrong buttons. I know you told me how to do it this morning. It's how useless I am.
That's all right. Here you are. That's all good.
Yeah,
and look, we don't have to even waffle on because now it's 7 o'clock. So
yeah.
It looks like lots of people have joined. You are very popular. So I'll just run through this little intro, and we can chat all things running, park run, walking, children, homeschooling, the whole lot.
Yeah.
So let's get cracking. So I'm Helen Williams, park runner A6014, event director of Harrogate Junior Park Run here in the UK. And alongside Vassos Alexander, who absolutely sends his love from him and the kids, Jo, we are the co-presenters of the Free Weekly Timed podcast. Before we start, we'd just like to recommend that after this conversation, people check out the many Park Run social media channels in the UK and across the world, as well as subscribing to the various Park Run podcasts out there. You'll find me on the Free Weekly Timed podcast, but there's also with me now Park Run Adventurers and the new 9:30 Club, to name a few others. So for today's question and answers, I'm joined by the legendary Jo Pavey. Hello, Jo.
Hi, everyone. I don't know if legendary is the word, but...
By the time Park Run was born in October 2004, Jo had already competed in 2 Olympic 5,000 metre finals. She's now represented Great Britain at 5 Olympic Games, and despite a 12-month postponement, is still targeting a 6th. We'll talk about that in a bit. Her first Park Run was way back in 2013 at Killerton Park Run in Devon. And last month, just 1 week before lockdown, she ran 16:57 at Exmouth Park Run, which is a Park Run PB for Jo and an age grade record of 94.59%. So, Jo, before we get into things, how are you today?
All right, thanks. How is everyone? How are you?
We're really good in the sunshine. It's great to have you here. Have you had a good day in lockdown world?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I know. I think many parents will probably appreciate the delights of homeschooling, doing a bit of that today in the garden. But we had, I think when I spoke to you earlier, we hadn't got going and it was getting rather late, but we did get on with it in the end. Yesterday we were a bit more successful about getting going early, but today it took us a while. But, you know, I feel very lucky because we have got a bit of a garden and we can keep active with the kids in the garden, and we've been out for walks and runs. The kids have been on their bikes and things like that. But, you know, it's difficult times for everyone. It's unprecedented, and it's lovely to be able to keep in contact with a Park Run community. And you guys have done such an amazing job keeping everyone's spirits up, all the things you've been doing. So brilliant.
Aren't they amazing? It's just wonderful. I do feel like the Park Run community is actually even closer together than they were before, which is brilliant. So, in fact, and do you know what I'm going to do? Have you got earphones, Jo? I'm going to put mine in because I completely forgot.
Yeah, I've got mine. See, because earlier I was saying, wasn't I couldn't find the bit that attaches the headphones to the phone. Got that now. Another panic over. Can you hear me now?
You're breaking up a little.
It's funny, when you put your headphones in, it seemed to stop it working. I don't know if that's possible. Hello, everyone.
Oh, you were sounding...
I can't hear what Helen's saying, but...
Drop out, we'll just...
Yeah, I can see you, but it's broken up a bit. The kids aren't using the internet, are they, Gav? No, they're not.
Can't work out if it's yours.
Yeah, it should be all right. I mean, we've given the kids strict instructions not to use any internet while we're going.
Oh, yeah, it might be that. You've come back. No. Sorry, everyone. We should do it sans earphones in that case.
As soon as you put the headphones in, it stopped it working. I don't know if that's possible, but...
Yeah, how bizarre. Right, let's crack on then. So, 16:57 last month, Jo. It sounds like you're in really, really good shape. You recently said you were still targeting Tokyo, even in 2021. But let's go back to the 16:57.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed that because obviously it was the one to celebrate International Women's Day, and I really wanted to get along to a park run. And I chose one that locally is quite a fairly fast course in Exmouth, and had a lot of fun there. We all went as a family, and Gav got round with the kids, and I thought I'd give it a go to run, a reasonable time, only because I thought it would do me good, because I was in training, but I was planning to do a half marathon at the end of March, but of course that was cancelled in the end. I was meant to be doing the Antrim Coast half marathon, so I was kind of training really hard for that, and I thought, it'd be good to just sort of do it at a reasonable pace, and I enjoyed it. It's such a great atmosphere down there, like all park runs are, and it was brilliant. And we did do the park run the week after, because I ran around with my son in that one, and I said to him, you really must get to that park run, because I think there's a bit of a feeling that it might be the last one for a while, sadly.
Yeah.
And of course it was, but we got round, and I think everyone felt a bit emotional that day at that park run, thinking, oh, this might be the last time we all meet up for a while. But everyone's been brilliant, the way they've all kept focused with keeping in contact online, and we can't wait till we can all meet up again.
No. So going back to being in 16:57 shape, and you have recently said that you were still going to target Tokyo in 2021. What will you be doing to keep that kind of going? Because it's hard, isn't it? I mean, it's hard enough as it is juggling, but then juggling under these conditions must make it that little bit harder.
Yeah, I mean, first thing is, I don't want people to think I'm delusional. I'm aware that I'm very old, and also there's extremely talented younger athletes running really well. So I know it's a huge ask, and of course with the now postponement of the Olympics, I'd be even older if I was to try and go. But I am still training hard. I was going down the track regularly before everything became shut, really trying to get my track sessions where they need to be. And now I think we all feel, it almost feels inappropriate to be talking about competing in big events, and when you see all what's going on with all the sad stories, and also, of course, everyone working so hard in the NHS, the key workers and the NHS staff are working so hard, and it feels a bit wrong to be talking about competing. But I am trying to keep my fitness going. I do what I can. It's very hilly where I live, so I'm sore legs a lot of the time because I can't run as many flat routes as I would like, but I'm keeping going, and also trying to keep different paces of my running going. I went out the other night to try and do some sprints, and I realised I could only find 20 seconds of flat. So I just did, it was a bit desperate. So I did 20-second sprints and ran back to the start point and kept doing that. And I managed to find somewhere where no one would see me and think I'm just completely crazy because I wasn't running very far. Just keep sprinting. But yeah, and also, obviously, keeping active with the kids, that's been quite a lot of fun, actually. And I think all the kid-type activities that we've tried to do in the garden, they've kept me quite sort of feeling young again, and I've been on the trampoline a lot in the back garden, which has been a lot of fun. I can recommend that.
I mean, I think you've made loads of really important points there. I think one of them being that I think when you can see the overall picture is that actually the things that are happening now are the things that are really important in life generally. I think it's great if you've got that amazing perspective that, you're going to go for something. There's no reason why you shouldn't. Everybody else is going to go there, and age is just a number. But it's great that, and probably why your success has been amazing is because you're very realistic about what you're going to do and what you're setting out to do. And I think that probably, keeps your feet on the ground. Another question here is, parkrun started in October 2004, so that's just a few months after you arrived back from the Athens Olympics. So how's running changed in the 16 years since you've left, and in that way, from an elite side and a recreational side, being involved in parkrun?
Yeah, I mean, of course, the massive brilliant thing is the way the running community has gone from strength to strength. I remember when I was first starting out in my career, it was all about athletics, and of course you could go and do road races, and it was great that there was masses of people running those road races, but there wasn't the real feeling of community that you've got now. And obviously parkrun's been an absolutely huge part of that running community, getting people running, all the amazing volunteers, everyone that makes parkrun happen. That has been massive. And then you've got all the social networking sites for runners and how we all encourage each other, and then posting runs and comparing and motivating and encouraging each other. That's all been new and been a really nice thing, which is really motivating. And I think why I've kept running for so many years is, yes, I've had great experiences by going to Olympics, but it's more been the love of running and the love of how running makes you feel. And I think at the moment, that's what we need to do with our running, is focus on well-being and how great it is for our physical and mental health under these times. And that real feeling of, you know, how much I enjoy running is what's kept me going. And then, of course, I've loved setting myself goals, and that keeps me going as well. But yeah, running's definitely changed. One funny story I always tell is I remember walking into my first ever Olympic Village in Sydney and looking around with my teammates and saying, wow, you know, isn't this amazing? And then the Rio Olympics, feeling like an old dinosaur, walking in and being like, looking around, saying, wow, and then realising that all my teammates are broadcasting it all live on Snapchat and I don't even know how to use it. And I feel like I don't want to say anything because everyone's going to be like recording this, and just like everyone's on their phones sharing it with people they're not with. And I felt a bit out of my depth, but of course it was great that they could share their wonderful experiences with you know, a bigger audience and that. But it was just, it suddenly made me realise the difference of how the world's changed, but you know, in a good way in a lot of ways, because you can share experiences, and you know, it's brilliant the way the community's really changed. And I think as far as training, Gav and I used to go away to training camps on our own, sort of to South Africa, whereas it moved much towards more like training camps, where like there was camps in Kenya, things like that. I never got the opportunity to go on a camp in Kenya. There wasn't really that happening at the time when I went on camps, and it's been a lot more formalised as far as all the input and everything. We were kind of left to our own devices, but in an enjoyable way, really. It was fun to work at things, go and when, and sometimes...
Jo's gone!
Oh, Gav, they said I've gone.
No, you've come back.
Have I come back? So it's like, Gav, quick, shout to my husband, I've gone. Where have I gone? I don't know what to do about this.
It's a glitch.
Yeah, so, you know, from the elite side, I sometimes think that there's a lot of input going in. Of course, the athletes are training extremely hard, and you know, but there was more sort of official camps, which we didn't have years ago. But I mean, I've been really excited to see how well, you know, the likes of Eilish and Laura Waitman, you know, everyone, I mean, the list is endless, to be honest. I don't name names, there's so many of them, but they're running brilliantly well, and it's great to see. And I just still enjoy running. I love being active with the family and all the things that running is, really. But yes, things have changed a lot for everyone, really, I think.
Do you think that part run has changed? I mean, just from your perspective, obviously you've said there that part run has changed things, but do you think that's changed things for most elite athletes, just in terms of either accessibility, not just for elite, but just in terms of how elite people view other people who run? Do you think that's changed?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember seeing Paul, you know, around Bushy Park when Park Run started, and it was always exciting to see. And, you know, it's just amazing what Paul has achieved. I mean, I'll never stop admiring how amazing he is and what he's achieved, and how it's gone into a global phenomenon. It's just amazing. And it's done so much for running, because, of course, runners at elite level and runners that already did mass events, they might have done that. But so many thousands, millions of people would have never tried running if it wasn't for Park Run. And the fact that it's so inclusive, the way everyone's welcome, you can walk if you want, and the volunteers are so brilliant. But also people can volunteer if they're not really wanting to run themselves and still be part of it. And it's done a massive thing. I think it has definitely changed the way running is thought about, because it's just made it more like, yes, everyone can be a runner and everyone can enjoy the benefits that running brings. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, brilliant. And on your Instagram, you shared a wonderful image of your daughter completing her first part run with your husband Gavin, which was on International Women's Day, as you said earlier. And that was the day that you ran your 16:57 part run PB. And there was a junior boy just a few seconds behind you. So it's great to see children of all abilities also being able to participate alongside adults of all abilities, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm blown away by the standard of a lot of the young people running Park Run. And, you know, when I see them at the end, I would say, wow, you're so far ahead of me. I didn't do a 5K until I was 26, I think. I mean, obviously I can run further than that as a run, but I'd not actually taken part in a 5K until I was about 26. I think that was the first time I did one. It was like, I think I remember the first road race I I did was not until I was quite old. And obviously my 10K PB, I think I was about 38 when I did that. So slow learner maybe.
So does it always surprise you when you see these, young kids who are just really, really speedy, and at the same time, then you've gone there on International Women's Day and you've been there, and your daughter's done her first one, and it's like that first stepping stone, isn't it? That inclusivity of having children of all abilities there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm hoping as the years go forward, I can do a lot of park running with my daughter, because I was saying before, sometimes we don't get along as much as we'd like, because my son is really big into his surf lifesaving club, and that happens to be 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, has to be in the sea at 9 o'clock. And then because my daughter's still young and my husband's coaching at the surf lifesaving club, I end up being left with her, and she's just that little bit too young to get around regularly, and she's so keen at being active and running, and she's been doing a lot of bike riding lately. She did 9 miles the other day on her bike, so I think she'd be keen to start doing park run more regularly in a couple of years. But I think it's probably my mind, it took me till I was 26 to be able to complete a 5K, so I'm used to knowing it takes a bit of time to do that. But I'm looking forward to that, and she loved it, but she did get a bit distracted because it was on the beach front, and she wanted to get onto the beach and make sandcastles, I think, along the way. But she enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to doing more of that with her. And Jacob obviously loves doing it as well.
And is that something that I think that is the nice thing, isn't it? Because it is there for everyone, every member of your family. And if you don't want to run, you can walk, and if you don't want to walk, you can volunteer, and if you don't want to volunteer, you can just stand and clap and spectate, which is lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. The volunteers are amazing, and I just love the fact you see so many families taking part together, and it's really inspirational. And I think it's great as well that when they're getting to a certain age, and then they get to be old enough, like over 11, to actually have a go at it themselves. And I think that was a slight frustration for Jacob, is when I decided, right, I'm going to try and run this relatively fast, then Jacob got a little bit cross at the end that he'd had to stay with my husband and take as long as my daughter, as our daughter was taking. And so he's looking forward to being 11 so he can take off. But, often I like to run with him anyway. But we've been doing quite a bit of running together, Jacob and I, over the last few weeks with the lockdown, which has been really nice.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits, isn't it? That it forces you all to be together, which sometimes drives you crazy, but most of the time that quality is really nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just a reminder to people who are listening and watching, if they've got any questions for Jo, you can pop them in the comments down below, and Parkrun HQ will pull some of them out and we'll ask at the end. Also on your social media platforms, Jo, you've shared lots of tips for getting active during lockdown. I've seen, you've been doing garden activities, and also you're obviously, as you spoke earlier, balancing the joys of homeschooling, which is difficult. So how are you finding that in the Pavey household?
Yeah, I think, as I said this morning when I was talking to you, we didn't have a good start this morning. I was chatting to you and the children were on Minecraft, which I think other parents could probably relate to, whereas we had a good start yesterday, but we did get quite a lot of work done this afternoon, and Jacob and I did maths in the back garden, which seemed to help, just to get out and sit in the sun. But yeah, it's keeping the balance, because of course, you can feel quite under pressure with the Google Classroom situation. They can see whether you're logged into the classroom or not. So, they've got the joys of keeping up with that. But it's great how much effort the teachers are making. But it does mean we have to keep on it, which is good as well, because obviously it's important. But also just making sure keeping the kids active, coming up with different ideas. We did a funny challenge recently where we just made like a ladder drill out of an old bamboo cane, and we did hopping and jumping and that over that, and we've done some sort of other activity challenges, but also just shuttle running in the garden, but also just playing games. Like Jacob and I played a lot of ball games in the garden yesterday for about 2 hours, and we just had a lot of fun doing that. It was all quite random, but it's about having fun, and we were active, and Gav and Emily had gone on a bike ride, but Jacob just wanted to stay, and so we just played a load of games, and it was just really, really good fun. So it's like getting the balance between formal activities that get the heart rate up, but also just making sure it's always fun. You have a lot of fun. I say I've had a lot of fun on the trampoline, and I get a little bit scared when I'm on trampoline with the kids, because you know when they bounce and then you bounce and it catches you right at the wrong moment and it jars your back. And then they're trying to encourage me to do more impressive moves, like I can just about do onto the knees and back up again, or you know, onto your bottom and back up again. But I try and discourage my son from doing flips, but he's got quite good at that by telling him he's not allowed to do it, but obviously they're still going to
I was going to ask that. Can you do a flip?
No.
PSH and flip, you know, we've seen PSH do a flip.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? No.
I mean, it's really tricky, isn't it, getting the balance? But I think you're right. And I think a lot of the things that you know, the more I talk to people all the time, you know, when I'm speaking to friends on the phone, and I think the simplicity of only being able to use what you've got has actually made life easier and more fun. So, you know, when you are only in the garden, or, you know, we've discovered loads of places when we go for our daily walk, we've discovered loads of places we would never have been to before. And that simplicity makes you just look at the smallest things, doesn't it? So that you, at one time, you might have had more things to do, or you've been distracted by other things, but because we're not allowed to do all of these things outside, it has meant that, you know, you're playing games in the garden with your kids and you're being more inventive, and it's difficult, isn't it? You get trapped. It's difficult not to get trapped between homeschooling and looking at the sun in the garden, and you know, so it's, you know, you've gone and done your maths in the garden. Are the kids enjoying it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when the lockdown started, I was really worried about, you know, as adults, we can cope with this, so we'll deal with it. But I felt worried about what it'd be like for them, not being able to see their friends and everything. But they've adjusted really well. Obviously, they've done a bit of FaceTime with friends and things like that. But it's really quite surprising. I think a lot of people found that, how well they've adjusted. But I also and even remind the kids that, you know, how lucky we are that obviously some families find themselves in a tower block with a small amount of space. And I'm always saying that, yes, it's tough, but I feel fortunate we have got a bit of a garden and they can go outside. And I was only watching the news last week and hearing about a lady who was in just one room with a 9-month-old baby and a 7-year-old. And she said there was nowhere for her to walk apart from round a car park. It was a converted office block. And, you know, I actually showed that to the children because I thought it was important for them to realise actually we are very lucky because we have got somewhere to go. And I think even with some of the challenges that I've been doing, like the one with the bamboo ladder that I wanted to show people, I purposely did it indoors because I thought not everyone has a garden, and it's really important to remember that. And so I do feel fortunate in that respect, and I feel fortunate we can go for a walk. I was speaking to one of my friends earlier whose husband's ill and she's got children, and they can't actually leave the house at all because of the risk of any illness to the husband. And, you know, that's a lot tougher as well. They can't go for a walk and things like that. And so, you know, I feel really fortunate. And like I say, you can use the time positively. You can use it for quality family time, have fun together, things you wouldn't have normally done to keep fit, like funny challenges and jumping around, and even just normal games and that. Normally we're all so busy rushing around trying to get to different clubs and get to school and back and everything. And I think there's anything positive. One, we can hopefully all find some time to have quality time, keeping active as a family. But I'm also aware everyone's in different circumstances. Like some people are working really, really hard from home, or they're having to go to a place of work, and we all find ourselves in different circumstances. But if we can find time to use it positive, I think it's a good thing, and it makes us appreciate all the things we used to do. It seems strange to think, oh, we could drive to the beach. That would be so weird to even think of it now, isn't it? It's really odd. And all the pictures of people, and I sort of think pictures I see online of people almost getting arrested for sitting on a bench and things like that. It's all just really a totally different world at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is very odd. So we know people are watching this from around the world, because just before you joined, when people were joining in, there were people from Russia and from Poland. So it, you know, not just the UK or here. So
hi everyone.
And of course we're all in various stages of lockdown and social distancing. So what tips have you got? You have spoken about some already, for them to keep active, upbeat, and positive. I think, what is the thing that keeps you positive? So we know that, you know, you can make the best out of the simple things, but how do you stay positive?
I think for one, you can reset your goals. A lot of people are obviously resetting their goals to a different event later in the year, but also thinking ahead of, yes, it will all end. We will get to meet up with our running buddies again. And also at this time of a difficult lockdown, think about seeing if we can rise to the challenge. Of course, it's more difficult to keep our fitness going, but rather than dwell on negative things, think about how we can think of a positive way around things and try and enjoy coming up with new ideas and way around things. And with running, try and think of new routes maybe around your house that you haven't done before. And if you get a specific route, maybe you could get a new set of PBs of how you're going to try and beat your time around that route the next time. But also try and come up with ways of keeping different paces of running going, whether that's a bit of fartlek training. That's quite a convenient one because you can find a good stretch, pick up the pace, or hill sessions and pick up the pace up a hill. And of course, an actual hill session, if you've got a hill, is a really good way of boosting fitness. But also, I found that sometimes it gives me a chance on this lockdown to think of working at some of my weaknesses. I'm not very agile, and as I get older, I need to try and work on that, and doing the kid type stuff is good. But also having time rather than driving to a track or anything. Obviously, I'm not able to do that, so I have to work out how I'm going to keep the different paces of running going. But the extra time where I'm not travelling to a facility, maybe I could work on core stability or my stretching or some of the strength and conditioning work at home that I would normally do but probably not do enough of, and neglect a little bit in favour of running. And but yeah, so, and just thinking of keeping all those sort of things going, work on your weaknesses, and also engage with people online, keep everything motivated, maybe trying some online workouts as well. There's a lot of that going on. But yeah, just keep positive and think this will all end, you know, in the end. And our thoughts go out to everyone obviously affected by the coronavirus all over the world, and of course everyone working so hard in our hospitals around the world as well. Yeah,
shall we go to some questions?
Yeah.
Should we find out what our listeners have been inputting in? Oh, brilliant. We've got a 5-year-old. So 5-year-old Abigail on Facebook.
Hi, Abigail.
How can I practice my running when I have to stay indoors? And it also says she also posted a brilliant picture of her and Joe. So you must have met her.
Hi, Abigail. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think if you got to stay indoors, I'd say one thing we enjoyed doing was making the ladder with the bamboo cane, but all you need is some sticks or even just some objects you can jump over, and you can do little fast feet runs, maybe hops, some jumps over them, and keep going back to the start point. And if you keep doing that several times, it's really tiring. You can also set yourself challenges like how many star jumps you can do in a minute, or how many times you can bounce a ball, and even a shuttle run, because we've been doing that challenge. But a shuttle run can be done in a really small space. You only need about 3 meters, really. And if you have to, say, touch the floor both ends and keep going back and forth, that's really good. Or you could make up really funny games. You could, say, try and move to the other side of the room like a frog or a kangaroo or like a spider, and come up with different ways of moving. Or you could put objects at one end of the room, and maybe mum or dad or someone else in the family could shout which object you have to run and get, and see how quick you could get them. But there's so many different things you could do, and even things like stuck in the mud or tag in a small space, it can be done. And it sounds like you're being really positive to try and think how you're going to keep fit. So well done to you, and that's absolutely brilliant to hear.
Mind you, I have to say, I'd love it if you lived in our house. That'd be great. You could whip our children right up there. They go crazy, don't they? They just go crazy. When you play these games, they get so invested in it.
Yeah.
Especially if you get the animal wrong. That's not what that animal does, Mummy.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, with the star jumps, I was actually surprised how tiring it is to do star jumps for 1 minute. I know it sounds silly, but I just presumed it wouldn't be as hard as that. I know it sounds crazy, but if you do that, because I was doing the child's challenge, but apparently as an adult, it should have done 2 minutes. But it is quite, I wouldn't normally bother to do that, if you know what I mean. And it's actually quite surprising, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a question from Mornington Chasers, and they say, what is Joe's favourite park run?
I've got lovely ones where I live. I really like them for different reasons, really. Exmouth is absolutely brilliant if you want to get a relatively fast time, because it's on the seafront, but it can be very windy. But it is beautiful to run by the sea. But of course, right by the sea is quite windy, but it is a flat road, and that's really good. And Killerton Park Run is lovely and scenic and off-road. And the same with Holden Forest. It's really nice to run through the forest, and it's really scenic. And I think sometimes if you've got children, it's quite nice to obviously go to one where it's fairly fast so they can challenge themselves and maybe see what time they get, because that's motivating. But at the same time, it's good to build into that, going to ones that aren't on tarmac, so it's good to get the balance. And I quite like taking the children where there aren't tarmac each time, but at the same time going to a fast one now and again is a great challenge for them as well.
Great. Katie Thompson says, I've just had a baby and I'm finding it really hard to fit running in. Any tips?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, at the moment, obviously we're all in the situation of lockdown, and if we go running, we've got all the social distancing rules to keep to and things like that, and we are in different times. But as far as normal advice coming back from having a baby, don't rush things. You're going to be tired and you don't know how much sleep you're going to get. And I found that I had to work around when was the opportunity if the baby was asleep. And obviously it might be more challenging to go places as a family. When I just had a newborn, we all used to go somewhere, and then I would run while my husband pushed a pram up and down, so I wasn't far from the pram. And I did actually use a treadmill. Like, if you've got a treadmill or any kind of cross-training device, that's helpful because you can be in the same property while the baby's asleep. But if not, if you can work around the baby's feeds, just try and go out and just walk and jog a little bit, but don't put any pressure on yourself. And of course, when you've had the pregnancy, your ligaments can be quite lax. So I made the mistake the first time round when I came back from the first child, is that I went a bit more gung-ho, and I got fairly fit, but then I ended up with nothing, as in I didn't end up going to the championships even though I'd qualified. And then the next time round, I made my way back a lot more slowly, more sensibly, listened to my body more, thought, well, you know, I'm not a machine, and I wanted to enjoy time with obviously newborn and my older child, which, you know, needed to be factored in. And I took things more gradually, and I ended up with a more successful outcome. And I think it's at the first instance is not to panic about getting the heart rate up. You've got to think about conditioning your body back and all the changes that have happened, and don't beat yourself up. Have a kind of, you know, long-term goal, but don't actually have it as a definite goal. Just feed your way into it, and don't ever sort of make running feel stressful, because the newborn time is so important. And when you can start working on some core stability, then do, because I felt like my legs weren't attached to my body for a while when I was running. So do a bit of that, but yeah, try and run on some soft surfaces now and again and things like that, but don't panic to get back and enjoy it. And congratulations, we just had a baby. That's lovely news as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. Jay says, do you prefer hot sun or cold rain to run in?
Oh, hot sun. I should pretend I'm hardcore. I just love running in the rain. But yeah, rain is good. There's meant to be more oxygen, isn't there, in the air if it's raining? But I prefer hot sun, definitely.
Yeah, I enjoy the sun. I like running in the rain. I don't like getting out in the rain, but I don't mind it. Beth says, what is your favourite distance and what is the furthest you've run?
I suppose I do enjoy running a long, long way, but I think I'm more suited to shorter distance. I think my best 5K, you know, my best PB is probably my 5K track PB, and 10K was not too bad. But when I was in my prime, when I was younger, I absolutely loved doing half marathons, and I did a couple marathons. Because I love mass participation events. You know, you get to run with thousands of runners, and that's a lot of fun. But when I was in my prime, I wasn't equivalently as good at doing half marathon times as I was doing track times. So I'm a bit more suited to track, but whatever distance it is, I'll just give it my all. And obviously running a couple of marathons, I did London and New York. That was an absolutely awesome experience, but I didn't really get my time equivalently the same as my track times. So I think favourite distance as far as competing is probably 5K, 10K, but I just love the enjoyment of being with lots of other runners. You feel a lot more part of the community, whereas on the track you're very much in an elite field and you don't get that real thrill of being part of a running community. So I enjoy things that are part of the running community in that way, definitely.
And just to say to Beth that your 5K track time is 14:39, is that right? I think we've got that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 14:39. So That's pretty speedy. Stephen Haynes says, when running, how much of it is fitness and how much is mental? That's a good question.
Yeah, definitely. Getting a good running performance is definitely about, like you say, the physical and the mental side of it. I think fitness obviously needs to be there. You can't completely will yourself to a world record or something, can you? Obviously, but
not.
No, but mental side is a big part of it. I think over the years I've been a bit stubborn with seeing psychologists. It's just probably been the way I am in that way, because I feel like, oh, are they going to get into my mind? But actually, I know how much fantastic work they've done with other athletes and how important it is to get into the zone. And I think it's really trying to get into that zone when you're actually competing and being really focused on it. And it does take a lot of concentration, but also just the self-belief that you're confident in the training you've done, and you've prepared the best you can. And sometimes that doesn't have to be that everything's gone perfectly. It's just, you know, yourself, you did everything within your power, because there's going to be ups and downs, and remembering that everyone on that start line has got things that have gone wrong along the way. No one's going to have a perfect route to that start line, and it's about calmly composing yourselves and just think, right, all I've got to do now is race and try and be in that moment and keep focused, keep relaxed, don't tense up, and really believe that you can do what you set out to do. But it is tough, and it's like, when things get tough, almost try and reverse the psychology and think, right, enjoy the pain, and every footstep's getting you nearer that finish line. But yeah, I definitely think there's some great people out there working on the mental side of sport, but it's definitely a bit of both. But it's about enjoyment. I think, you know, all of us taking part in park runs and other events, we just love running, and that's why we keep doing it. And I think if you're enjoying something, you want to keep doing it, you want to get out there, you want to get training, and you want to turn up at events and meet up with other runners, and that's the main thing.
Absolutely. Okay, and the last question before we wrap it up is from Lewin Darren, and he says, Australian athlete and 2016 Olympian Eloise Wellings recommended your book, which is This Mum Runs, and it's available on Amazon for anybody who wants to buy it. And that's been recommended to Lewin, and he asks, which was your favourite chapter to write?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I do it. Thank you, Eloise, for start, because Eloise has been someone I've loved to chat to over the years. She's a great friend, and, you know, she's got kids herself now, and she's just absolutely brilliant. We've had many laughs and been to competitions together, so thanks a lot to her. I think I did enjoy writing about the backpacking, I must admit, because I felt like, you know, it was quite a strange sort of way that I became an international athlete, because I'd had some reasonable performances as a youngster, won the English schools, but then, you know, I went to work and worked as a physiotherapist, and then my husband and I thought, let's just give it a go. But I'd felt too embarrassed to go to a training camp. I felt like my work colleagues would think, what on earth think she is, going to a training camp to try and become an international athlete? I'd have felt really silly, embarrassed, you know, about that situation. So I decided with my husband, we'd go backpacking around the world. We moved on every day, had loads of adventures, trained in beautiful locations, obviously didn't see a track the whole time we were away, and had lots of things were pear-shaped, a lot of things went well, and it's all very spontaneous, all the adventures we got up to. And then coming back, I used a track a little bit at first, because I hadn't used a track before. You know, when I was away, I hadn't used a track, but that whole backpacking trip was what led me to then qualify for my first World Championships in Athens in 1997, and it was that unconventional way that my whole career started that I enjoyed writing about, and it really reminded me how, you know, it was quite unconventional. It changed me from being not really in an athletic state to making my first World Championship, so I enjoyed writing about that. And of course, I mean, it's really hard to pick a bit, because obviously I enjoyed talking about the fact of becoming a mum, and of course I really enjoyed writing about the moment where I got my first ever gold medal when I was over the age of 40, and just coming back from having a baby and being a busy mum, because I enjoyed being able to talk about the fact that don't give up, you might achieve your goals in the end, and things can happen when you least expect them, and how it's worth waiting for, and how I thought those days were long behind me where a gold medal would be a possibility, and it happened when I least expected it, but also when I was probably at my happiest and not stressed out about training and performances. I just did what I could, trained hard when I trained, but didn't get caught up about it, and that whole happiness led to me achieving my goal. And it was nice to be able to share that with people as well, that it's not about stressing, it's about enjoyment.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Thanks so much for your time this evening, Jo. And thanks to everyone who's tuned in. Do check out the social media channels from Parkrun in the UK and across the world, as well as I can never say this, as well as subscribing to the various Parkrun podcasts out there. I'll say it again, you'll find me on Free Weekly Timed, but there's also With Me Now, Parkrun Adventurers and the 9:30 Club. And lastly, now more than ever, it is important that we all come together and support each other. The Parkrun family is there for us all, and we will get through this together.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everyone. And keep well, keep safe.
Stay
and well done to everyone at Parkrun.
Bye.
Bye.